We are recording. So, open up the floor for questions, lab stuff, lecture stuff. Don't forget there's a quiz on tomorrow over 15, 16, and 17. And then we have a lecture quiz over section 7.1 and 7.2. And that is the skeletal system chapter. And according to the lecture schedule, we should be wrapping up skeletal system in the next day or two, and then joints of the skeletal system is the next chapter on the docket for the last half of this week and the first part of next week. So I'm just kind of looking at the schedule as outlined in the lecture schedule. So, and I believe all of those chapters, lecture chapters, should be freed up in Blackboard, so you can take a look at those whenever you want. I'm trying to remember if I don't think I put all of the chapters remaining up on there. I could, but it certainly should be maybe even through muscular system. I would have to look, but you definitely have joints up there. So anything causing you grief, anything you'd like to review specifically? Floor is open.
There's nothing causing me like grief except for how we're going to be going over bone growth.
Are you talking about ossification or what specifically when you say bone growth?
Ossification, endocardial ossification, and intramembranous ossification.
Right. So we talked about that last week during the review session. I think Sadie asked, or somebody asked about that. I think it was
Sadie.
Yeah. So you should go back into, I mean, we can talk about it again, but you might want to go back and watch that review session. I think I taped it.
Yep, I saw it.
So is it still unclear, or do you have specific questions about
those
processes?
As it shows up on the quiz, I'm wondering how that's going to show up.
Well, on the quiz, it could be as simple as endochondral ossification begins with what type of connective tissue prior to the formation of bone. That could be a general quick answer question. On a test, it could be choose one of the two types of ossification, endochondral or intramembranous, and describe the process. That could involve a little more writing if we had more time. Now, quiz, we don't have that much time. It's not designed to take up a lot of time, but on an essay question, that could be used to ask a question related to those two processes. Another question could be on a quiz. Let's see, what would be a good question? The mandible, maxilla, and zygomatic bones are all formed as a result of blank ossification. And would you write intramembranous or endochondral? Mandible, maxilla, skull bones.
It's an intramembranous.
Intramembranous, right. Yep. Or I could say the femur, tibia, fibula, ulna, radius are all formed as a result of blank ossification, and you'd say endochondral, right? The medullary cavity during bone development is hollowed out thanks to the action of blank cells.
Osteocytes. Wait.
No,
Osteoblast.
no, they don't build bone.
I know it's along those lines.
You got to know that the medullary cavity
Yeah.
is a cavity.
Right.
So it's going to contain the yellow bone marrow. It's going to contain blood vessels. But during the development of that structure in development, it's hollowed out thanks to the osteoclasts.
Osteoclast. Yeah.
Yeah.
In time, large cells called osteoclasts break down the class.
They break down bone.
Calcified matrix. Yeah.
You got to, of course, understand what the medullary cavity is. And that's, again, that central region of the diaphysis of a long bone, right? That gets hollowed out thanks to osteoclast activity. And then, of course, I think there's a continued discussion of the maintenance of bone in our bodies, because our bodies are constantly forming bone, but also constantly breaking down bone in an effort to maintain proper blood calcium levels. And so on page 212, there's a figure 7.14. It's another classic negative feedback loop, if you will. And that's definitely a figure you're going to want to know. And we can pull that up if you want to talk about that too. That's talking about hormonal regulation of blood calcium. That is absolutely critical to know. It turns out that I have freed up all of the remaining chapter PowerPoints. I'm looking at that right now. That doesn't mean they might not be tweaked a bit as I periodically go in and take a look, but for the most part, they're not going to be altered a whole heck of a lot. So again, the chapter 7 PowerPoint is loading as we speak. So again, back to questions. I didn't mean to go off on a tangent here. Again, this is such a big chapter, it's taking forever to load because I include all the bones, the diagrams in the back third of the chapter. I didn't remove those. I probably should just take those out of the PowerPoint because it's taking so darn long to load. When you guys pull this up at home, are you finding the same situation with chapter 7 is taking forever, or is it just me?
It loads right up.
Okay, good. It could be just that our system is slow. I don't know.
So like, is there anything in the lab packet that has like exercise 15, 16, and like 17 that like is not going to be on the quiz?
No, I think it's all fair game. Again, the key is using those sheets as a guide, like we went through those structures. And I think you just got to remember that, because if you don't, when you look at those exercises, just like the preceding ones, there's a ton of things, many of which you don't need to know. You know, for example, the carpal bones, they list all the names. You don't need to know all the names of the carpal bones. So use that guide as just that, a guide in terms of what bones and specifically what structures of what bones might appear on the quiz or on the lab practical in a couple of weeks. So are you asking because you want me to narrow down the choices or what?
Absolutely.
You're just being so diplomatic, Sadie, about that. You're learning. You're good.
I'm trying to follow her lead. I just can't. I don't know how to, you know what I mean?
Well, or maybe you weren't being that sneaky. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not the right word to use.
And don't forget the extra credit this week.
Oh, geez. What were we going to ask?
The phalanges.
How many?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, good. I totally forgot about that. I know we talked about it, so I felt bad when you brought that up.
Now, John, don't miss it on the quiz tomorrow. You'd be the one to forget and be like, I don't know.
14, 28, 56.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I do have the chapter 7 PowerPoint pulled up if you want to go to any particular slide. But again, what I was just mentioning a few moments ago is this idea that even after our bones have formed, by the time we're, in our early 20s, all of the ossification is pretty much ended. That doesn't end the role of osteoblasts and osteoclasts, right? Because our body maintains a fairly constant total bone mass over time, even though this third bullet is quite interesting, that we replace between 10 and 20% of our skeleton every year. So within 5 to 10 years, you have a new skeleton. Isn't that crazy when you stop to think about it? All of those parts of your bones have been totally resorbed and then redeposited thanks to the action of the osteoclasts and osteoblasts, respectively. And that's just crazy. That in a period of one's life, let's say you lived to be 70, right? Theoretically, we're talking about 7 to 10 skeletons. Isn't that wild? I think that's kind of interesting. And so I guess there's a little video that I posted about that, which you can watch. And then we talk about different aspects of bone health. We talk about nutritional impacts. Obviously, you see on that slide the role of the sun, different kinds of hormones, which is fascinating, including I think I did a video, a YouTube video of the world's tallest guy. Did you check out that YouTube? It's pretty interesting. Yeah. And then, so there's several hormones we talk about. And also this notion of physical stress that we place on our bones in a positive kind of way. So when you work out, when you run, when you exercise, when you're physically active, that's positive in so many different ways, not just from a cardiovascular point of view, but from a bone health point of view too. Because when you pull on bones via muscle contraction, because as you're going to learn, most of our skeletal muscles are called skeletal because they're connected to the bone. When your muscles contract, there's an end to the muscle called the insertion end that tugs on the bone to cause a movement, and that tugging action, we can think of that as stress, not in a bad way. Okay, don't take it the wrong way. We're not talking about, oh, I'm stressed out, I'm going to have a heart attack. No, this is a positive stress you're putting on bone because of exercise. Just as you find when you're in a cast, if you break your arm, not only do you see muscle atrophy because you're not using the muscle, but there'd be also some bone atrophy too, because you're not pulling on that bone because the muscle is immobile or the bone's immobile. So it sometimes takes some time once the cast is removed to build up the muscle tone, if you will. But also, if you could examine the bone, it's going to probably also end up, increasing in mass over time due to the stress you're placing on the bone because of the muscles contracting. So they go kind of hand in hand. And then we talk a little bit about blood cell formation. And the only reason we talk about blood in this exercise or chapter, because we devoted an entire chapter to blood later on, is the fact that blood cells are produced in the red bone marrow. Now, where is the red bone marrow typically found in a long bone? Do you remember? You're muted, Sadie.
Oh, and like the spongy bone at the ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in the epiphysis regions, right? And so as bone, is used to provide structural framework, it also houses our red bone marrow, which again is the source of blood cells in you and me. Before our bone was fully ossified, as it says here, it was produced in the liver and spleen, and then even earlier during embryonic formation, something called the yolk sac was the source of blood cells as the placenta is developing here. So as you'll learn in ENP2, when you get to the growth and development chapter, blood isn't formed by bone in a fetus. There's no bone to be had. So we're going way, 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 way back. In a matter of days following conception, there's a yolk sac. This is a microscopic structure for the most part. Oh, you might be able to see with the naked eye, but it's a little dot. Anyway, they talk about that. And then we talk more about the maintenance of blood calcium. This is what I was talking about earlier, this negative feedback loop as described in that figure 714. So definitely spend some time looking at this because this will be on the test, definitely. I think we said with respect to the quiz tomorrow, we were not going to include section 7.3, and this is on section 7.3. So it's not like you have to know this for tomorrow. But at some point in time, you're going to want to look at it. Because we have our lecture exam a week from Wednesday, on the 24th. Just kind of looking at the schedule here, right? And then that following week, the 31st, is our second lab practical. Yeah. Did you meet with Kyra last night or Sunday night? Is she still doing those review sessions? I know some of you were going Sunday nights. Is she still doing those or not? I don't know.
Man, I don't know. I usually just use her for just one-on-one tutoring
Okay.
mostly.
But you had gone to a Sunday night one, didn't you, initially?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I normally work Sunday nights, so I've never went to one.
Okay, yeah.
I use both of them actually.
You did. You're not doing Sunday nights now, though, right?
No.
Yeah. So where are you in chapter 7, I guess? Are you done with it? Are you half through it? Have you started? I don't know where you guys are.
I'm done with chapter 7.
Okay, good. Yeah, I would think, by now or by tomorrow, you should be getting into the joints chapter. Because remember, a big chunk of that chapter 7 goes over axial and appendicular bones and structures of those bones. So in terms of lecture material, it's a rather slim section of chapter 7, really. It's basically from page 201, I would say, up to through 212. So, it's about 10, 11 pages. It's not terribly thick section. Not that there's not a lot of material there. There is, but it shouldn't be a horrible chapter. I hope you're using the textbook. In some of the diagrams here, they were very similar to the transparencies that I used the last 2 weeks, I know. But there's some nice sketches here. And some nice x-rays too, as I looked through this. Kind of fun to look at x-rays. Any questions on lab stuff, lecture stuff?
So it's going to be a lot of diagrams.
For the lab quiz?
Mhm.
Well, I think like last week, I had some stations, right? So there's going to be a few stations related to the bones that we learned last Wednesday. There could be some diagrams, right? I mean, I could ask you bone questions by putting the bone out or putting a labeled part of a bone at a station. Or I could, yeah, I could put one of the diagrams from one of the figures. I could put this diagram of the scapula out and ask you to identify structure number 3. And you'd all say what?
I can't see it.
The spine.
The spine, right?
Can't. Okay.
You can't see it.
Yeah, now I can see. Oh yeah, I can see it now. Yeah.
Can you see it now? Can you see me? Yeah, so the answer is yes. Diagrams are possible. I can guarantee you're going to see some bones because I like to have you prepared for what is coming in a couple weeks. That is the second practical, which likewise will have stations, no question about that. But could some of the stations have a diagram? Yes. So I think you got to be familiar with both. And then, you know, I could use one of the questions in the Part A assessment. I just happened to flip to this page, and I noticed in the lab report, this is exercise 16, in the Part A assessment, which you're hopefully answering some of those. One could ask a question related to a non-station, non-diagram sort of, you know, evaluation. There is a matching section, Part B assessment on page 123 on my book. It's probably different on yours. Part B assessment, lab report 16. Now, we did not spend much time on the radiographs or x-rays, so I don't think I would get all worried about those. I would focus my attention and study on that 4-page handout, as we did. I mean, what we did is what you're going to see on the quiz.
This 4-page handout.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Right.
You hear that, Sadie?
So like on that it just says like for like the hand it says like the phalanges, your carpals and like
Yep,
your
that's it.
carpals. So then like we don't have to like really know like any of like the bones. Didn't you say there was like maybe 2 bones that we would have to know?
Yeah.
In the foot, right?
Yeah, right. In the tarsals, we said the 2 bones were what? You remember the 2 bones of the tarsals you need to know?
The heel bone. And
Right. But we don't call it the heel bone anymore.
No. I got it wrote down here.
The heel bone's connected to the elbow bone.
It's something like that right there. Yeah.
Calcaneus. or
Yeah.
calcaneal bone, calcaneus, and the talus. Those are the two tarsal bones. So those are the only two that you really need to know.
Oh yeah, I starred them. So nothing in the hand then?
No,
Okay.
no, because again, going back to that handout, we did not specify any
Anything in
carpal.
the hand.
Right,
Well, it just has hand, wrist as carpals 8, metacarpals 5, phalanges 14.
right. Now, it's good to know the numbers. It's also good to know the difference between carpals and metacarpals. You need to know the difference between those two, not the names of the metacarpals or the carpal bones. They all have names,
Just the amount, just the
but
name.
which is which. If I had to put a piece of tape around the metacarpals, you're not gonna say carpals. That would be wrong. It's metacarpal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
the
these would be
metacarpals
the
are basically
metacarpals,
right here.
and this is the carpal.
The metacarpals are the bones of the palm.
Okay.
There's 5.
Here,
Hiding in the skin.
yeah, right here.
Yeah. Yep.
And this is the carpal.
And the carpals are down in the wrist. Right. Wrist. And that's why having, the hand available in the lab to look at helps reinforce that, because you can hold the hand up to your hand and you say, oh yeah, okay. Although I know I can't see my metacarpals because of the flesh and connective tissue, I can see on the skeleton where those are, and I can relate as to where they are in me.
I have a question.
Okay.
In the lab report on 126, it's the hand, number 9. That would be the metacarpals then? I just want to make sure I got it right.
Oh, the skeleton hand. Is that what you're talking about? Not the radiograph hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 9.
No, it's on page 126.
Can you show me? Because my pages are different than your
I have
pages.
metacarpals.
Show me the picture, please. Okay. So you're talking about this. Same thing.
Yes.
Oh, it looks. Well,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Okay. And number 9, you said?
Yeah.
Metacarpals.
Okay.
Metacarpals. Yep. And then 10 would be the proximal phalange. 11 would be middle, and 12 would be the distal.
Yep. Okay.
And then 1 through 8, those are the carpal bones of the wrist, whose names you don't need to know. Sure.
We have the answers. We have the answers to this, don't we?
The answers to the lab reports are both
Yep, I got
online
'em.
in the course shell, and there are 2 hard copies in the room. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
You ever feel like you're going to quit school, Mr. Radiman?
No.
No?
You mean when I was a student?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Probably because it wasn't online.
No. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know how I would have fared. It would have been challenging, no question about it. Yeah. I worry about what students are not getting that are going to come back to haunt them later in other courses. In terms of the instructor expecting them to know X, Y, and Z, and they didn't learn it. Either they didn't hear about it, or they didn't learn it well. And that may not be a function of the student. It may be a function of the instruction. I don't know. I can't say, but it's certainly harder remotely. No question about it. Which is why I'm somewhat opposed, vehemently opposed, to offering courses like microbiology lab online.
There's no way I would do that.
But there are students who are doing that, who are transferring it into nursing, and or they're taking A&P online and they're coming to me in micro and they don't know how to use the microscope. Well, how could they possibly learn how to use the microscope virtually? Well, there's a little fun cut and drag and pull. It's a joke. There's no way you can teach how to use the microscope without having the microscope in front of you. It's like trying to teach you to use a camera virtually. I've taken enough photography to know you can't teach photography. You can teach principles of photography, but you can't teach somebody how to manipulate the camera settings unless you do it and see what effect it has. It's the same metaphor, same analogy.
Yeah, I took a film photography class last semester, so I had to develop film in my sink in the bathroom, and it was rough.
Oh, that's interesting though. Wow.
Yeah, so
Huh.
I think, yeah, I still have like all of my film stuff. So, like,
Very
here's
cool.
my film tank,
Huh.
and then like I have my chemicals.
Yeah.
So, like,
Wow.
I FaceTimed my teacher because he gave me his phone number. So like I FaceTimed him, and it was my first time like getting the film can open, and I could not get it open. We were there for like 20 minutes. And I'm just in the dark and I'm just like talking to him, like, I can't get this open. I'm like pounding it with a hammer. So, yeah, that was fun. So yeah, I took a photography class last semester and it was film. So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I've never developed film, so I don't know how that works. But I mean,
It's a pain.
it's a lot of work. You have an appreciation of what Ansel Adams did back in the turn of the century and some of the amazing photographs that they made, or even the photos they took. I don't know if you've ever learned about, they had to take these big cameras out in the mountains with these big glass. I mean, it's just quite involved. So back to your question. No, I never thought of quitting, but I didn't take it online. You're right. I might have sat out a semester. I don't know. I don't really know. So much of science is hands-on, whether it's zoology or botany or biology or chemistry. It's so hands-on. You have to have that tactile, you got to see that microscope. You look at that slide, you got to see that bird skin. You got to, so much of it is, you learn it without having to touch it, but even then it's hard without that physical connection. So I'm really happy we can at least meet in lab. That's better than nothing. I think also I didn't have the responsibilities that a lot of you guys have in terms of family and other things. I could devote my entire life to school. I did, I worked a little bit too, but school was the priority, and it made it easier. Even in grad school, I could focus 100% on school, and that was what had to happen. I had no regrets about it at the time. I'm happy I was able to get through all in one fell swoop. I think it'd be hard to go from school to work and then come back. That'd be hard.
There's no way I can go to work right now. I have a database course right after this, and we building a hospital database using MySQL or MySQL. So there's no way I could do it. I can't go to work and do that. And be in your class too, there's no way.
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely no way. And then the residency that I have to do at the end of this next semester is 3 weeks. There's no job that's gonna let me go off work for 3 weeks to do a residency. There's no,
Well, anything else you want to review, talk about course-wise?
Yeah, are you gonna give us the answers to the test when we show up tomorrow? No.
Well, I'm sure, and when you turn it in, I'll be happy to tell you. What do you mean I'm not gonna give you the answer to the test? You got them all up here.
Yeah,
They might be jumbled, but they're all up there somewhere.
that's the amazing part. They there. I just got to get them on the paper. A
Yeah,
lot, like the last quiz I wrote down. I know this. I do know this, but I didn't put the answer in. You probably saw that.
I don't remember.
It's lacunae and caniculi, I think it was.
Oh,
Oh no, it was about I think it was, I can't remember. I knew I had to do something with lacunae.
Since we already did the quiz, was the one with the microscope, was that a sebaceous gland?
Yes.
Okay, good. And the other question, was it the axial skeleton?
Yes, it is.
You know, I haven't looked at the quiz in a week. I corrected it.
I was
last-
worried
like
about that
Wednesday.
one.
You asked was the frontal, the sternum, and something else part of
No, it
the,
was, yeah, it was,
The hyoid.
oh, the sternum, frontal bone, and hyoid are all part of the blank skeleton.
but
Yeah, axial.
Okay, because I totally didn't look it over, and I couldn't even remember what appendicular. I just remembered axial, so that's good.
You got lucky.
I put axial because I couldn't even remember what the other two parts of the skeleton were. So
Okay,
thankfully I remembered that. Well, now I know what they are now, but
right.
I put it down there. I don't know if how well I spelt it, but it's on there.
Well, we can talk about that later.
Okay.
I can't tell what that is. That looks like, I mean, that I saw something in Egypt when I was there. That looked funny. Oh,
They call that
hieroglyphics.
hieroglyphics.
Yeah,
actually,
I mean, I see an A and X, and then I see a U and a C and a Z and a Q
Yeah,
and an
that's
A and
not
an
it.
L. So John, you're trying to have both your cake and your pie and eat them at the same time.
wait, when did you go to Egypt?
No, I didn't really. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say,
I want to go to Egypt someday.
yeah, me too. That's why I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's cool.
No, I'd love to go to Egypt.
Yeah.
I've been to Russia though. That's true.
Yeah.
I walked to the Kremlin. I got lost in the Kremlin. That's another story.
When you
Yeah, I
got
got lost
time,
in the Kremlin. It's a pretty funny story.
that's funny. Hmm.
All right, well, last call. We got about 10 minutes left. I'll stick around until 12:20. If people have, well, actually, I'll be here until 1:15. I think I have office hours, so I'll be muted, but I'll be available if anybody has questions. Or we can stick around for 10 more minutes.
No, I'm just gonna finish up the little bit of notes that I have left of the last video, and then I'm gonna make flashcards and go up to the lab then.
Great.
Are you going to the lab?
Yeah.
I was there yesterday. I made flashcards, but I should probably go there.
Yeah, I
What
had a
time you
chem
going there?
test yesterday that I had no idea about. So I just studied all day.
Say that again, Sadie. You did what?
Yesterday he moved our chem test and I didn't get the email over the weekend. So kind of freaked out a little bit. And so I had to study all day. And I took it at 10 o'clock.
He moved it from when to when?
This Saturday coming up to yesterday.
He moved it up for 3 days? How can you do that?
Because apparently a lot of people didn't do their homework on the 12th, which I did. Friday night, I stayed up to
Yeah.
right until 11:55 when I finished it, when it was due at 11:59. I worked on it from 8 o'clock
Uh-huh.
until then because I didn't get out of work till 8. So then apparently a lot of people didn't do it. So I moved the homework due to the 14th and then bumped up the test to the 15th. So
Wow.
then, yeah.
So you basically had 2.5 days to prepare for a test that you thought you might have close to a week to prepare for.
Yeah. So Wednesday and Friday I had 2 tutoring sessions booked. So
That's not kosher in my book, but hey, who's your teacher?
Corey Damon.
Corey Damon, I've talked to him.
That's okay.
Doing, man, he's mean.
Really?
No,
Yeah.
Corey's a really good guy. He knows his chemistry. And
Oh, well, yeah, it's okay. I did pretty decent on it. It's okay.
I just think pulling up a test without giving adequate warning, unless it was his way of kind of saying, hey, you guys, you know, you're not pulling your weight here. I don't know if that's why he did it. I don't know. But
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure on the calendar it said the 20th and 21st, because that's when our last one was.
Mhm.
And then yesterday after review, he goes, okay, good luck on the test today. And I was like, wait, what? So yeah, I had to work till 5. So then that was not fun.
no, you had to scramble. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, that was terrible. Yeah, that's what I did all day yesterday. So that's why I still have to finish some of my notes today.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, you go do that. I'll, again, we'll end it here, but I will be around if people have any questions. Okay, great.
Sounds good.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna end this so that I can begin recording it and then I'll post it, but I will pop back into this room in about a minute or two, just FYI. I'm not leaving for good. I have to exit so that I can begin recording. Okay, great. See you guys later.
Adios.
Bye.